And hello, party people. Welcome back to another NRW video. And that's right, another review for all our fans in internet land and beyond. My name is David Estacado. I'm here with my buddy from Another Nutty, the one and only Rob the Movie Guy. What's good, Rob?
What's going on, man? Thanks for the introduction there again. A little hyping here, yeah, because we've got a great review here for you guys, and a sequel that I was very excited about here, in The Debt Collector 2, featuring our main man here, Mr. Scott Adkins himself, Louis Mandylor here, and several new other characters here, which we'll be getting into here. So before we get into our thoughts, let's roll the trailer here real quick.
Hey, break it up! Take it outside.
I gotta tell you something, pal. You still got it. You got every move.
Thought you were dead.
Oh, so did I, Frenchie. Believe me, a story for another time.
2 days, 3 Vigs. We're in, we're out. What do you say?
You serious?
Yeah, really? Yeah.
What is this?
It's called a car, mate.
No, it's a wheelchair with a roof, Frenchie.
It's clean, it's quiet, and it doesn't smell like your ass on the inside. All right.
Where are we off to first, then? Las Vegas. Is that okay with you?
Follow me.
Does the English shoe salesman know who he's talking to?
We're not here to pussyfoot around, so if you've already prepared the reddies, let's have it.
Give the bag to Mr. French.
What's your problem?
She gave it up way too easy, Frenchie, okay?
I'm done with violence, brother. I'm done.
And with violence, what's that supposed to mean?
It means no more hurting my fellow man.
Light 'em up! Go after it!
Bang, bang.
Good job with the non-violence thing, by the way. Doing a real good job there, mate. Impressive.
All right. And French and Sue are back in this sequel. How they came back, I don't know, because let's just get into that. You mentioned to me that there was a sequel. Like, hey, it just dropped. Go watch it. I'm like, I just watched the other one. How are they going to bring it back? I assume it's going to be Tommy's story or another story. But no, they actually brought back French and Sue in a ridiculous manner, but it worked for the story.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about the plot here real quick, because unlike the first film, where we have kind of an idea of where the story was going, and then something changed along the way, and they completely just changed the direction of the story here. In this film, we have an idea that Tommy has sent out Sue to do a job, and he's trying to get back French to help him out to collect the Vigs here. And he doesn't reveal too much as far as what the job was actually entails here. And then apparently Sue himself kind of figures out along the way what's really going on, because there's actually a bigger picture here. And we won't really get into spoilers here, because a lot of what we discovered on reviewing this movie here, at least for the first time when we first saw it here, really came to a surprise. And I'll put it like this: the past does come back to haunt them here. That's what we'll say about that. But just we like definitely will get into.
Just like they came to kind of got in their own waves in their way in their own selves, so to speak. And before we go any further, the way the movie opens up and the way they introduce Sue in the beginning, I thought he was like a ghost or a hallucination. But the way they had that show, that exposition, how they made it work, was the fact that they survived, and they survived. They survived in the most ridiculous freaking manner, and then the fact that they're both even alive is a freaking miracle. And they even kind of mention that and talk about it. Yeah, like I took a bullet here, it's still one here, lodged into my back, and
one took in the chest, and then he's like, "Yeah, I got one to take him right in like nearby the heart." And I was like, I know one guy that got shot in the foot, and he died. And I was like, Jesus Christ, these guys are like they're like a walking miracle right there. And plus, the events of this film takes place 7 months after the first film here, so they had a period of 7 months to recover from these near death experiences here, and they're eating breakfast together, they're talking, they're walking around.
They don't miss a beat. They don't miss a beat.
So it's like, it's a little over the top, but God, I was just happy to see them both together, to be honest with you, because I love the relationship in the first film. Great chemistry, wonderful sense of humor between the two of them.
You know what? Let's get into that. Let's get into the pros about that's a perfect segue right there.
All right, let's
and
go.
What, like Rob said, was that's true. They don't miss a beat, and you see that friendship develop even more in this film.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even go more deeply into their own, like how they survived, what they did afterwards, what they kind of went through in the past 7 months of recovery and finally meeting up with each other again. Yeah. And even being more personal history with what they were going through when they managed to kind of come in and out of it and survive the ordeal. Yeah. Kind of really allow them to kind of take in consideration that life has a little bit more meaning. That's what they were kind of like, that heartfelt conversation. Yeah. Sue stopped drinking, so that's spoiler. But that kind of plays into the movie a lot too, and just you see that relationship build and get stronger as the movie goes on, and even kind of comes into a head as well.
Yeah, well, and then we also see that they still have the same bickering back and forth with one another. Sue is asking about his car, which and then French reveals what he ended up doing with that car. When you watch the first film and you listen to the conversation about the car in this film here, it actually adds more of the element of comedy here, which is not overdone here. It's actually done pretty subtly, but it makes sense for the conversation because of these two contrasting personalities here, and you can tell they're happy to see each other, but you could also tell that not only are they happy to see each other, but they're appreciative that they're both back together into each other's lives and picking up where they last left off, which I really appreciate a lot in this movie here, because both Louis Mandylor and Scott Adkins working together here, we'll definitely kind of get into some things, not necessarily in spoiler territory, but if there's ever part 3 coming out, I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with these two characters here, because
and they leave it open for that.
Absolutely.
But going back into like kind of the plot a little bit, like Rob was saying, was that eventually they kind of find out exactly what's going on with these Vigs and why they're doing them in the first place. I'm not going to delve in too much, but they're also being chased by a couple of new characters. Yeah. And that's one thing I really liked about the movie, is that you're trying to figure out what the fuck is going on along with them. Like they're being kind of shadowed by these other two guys, and they kind of follow him throughout as these jobs get done. Even go back to a callback to the first movie, where Sue was in a movie himself.
Yeah, we forgot to mention that too in the first review.
We did.
Yeah, and so to kind of go back to that, so Sue had gotten a poster of a film that he had starred in a number of years prior to the events of this film here. And he was like, "You recognize this? You recognize this poster?" And French was like, "No." He's like, "Do you recognize the eyes?" And it's a guy in a ninja suit. And then once he looks at the picture, he's like, "No, am I supposed to?" He's like, "Look at it again." And he's holding that comparison of the eyes in the poster and the eyes that he's looking at. He's like, "Is that supposed to be you?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, you were in a movie." He's like, "Yeah." "Oh, you were in that ninja film?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, it was a long time ago." But you do know that thrillers are spelled with 2 L's, right? He's like, "Yeah, that's how they used to do it back then." But those were the times were different back then. So they there's a little bit of a punchline with that. And in this film, you have that one of the.
And like high note, like regarding that, if you look at the poster that they kind of show off, it kind of looks like because Scott Adkins was in a ninja movie right before this in 2009. Yeah. It looks like that poster. It just looks like they kind of blew it up a little bit. It looks like
they made it much more cheesier.
Yeah,
yeah. I think you're like. That's actually a good point that you brought up. I think you hit that on the head there with that. But yeah, so and they definitely bring that punchline in the movie here with the guys that were following them. He's like, "Yo, man, I know that. I recognize those eyes from a mile away." He's like, "I know that's the same guy." And then that conversation they have, he's like, he's super hyped to meet an actor that was in one of his favorite ninja movies of all time, which I thought was kind of funny. So we get that kind of being brought back into this film here. But and we mentioned before, we get to see some new characters in the film as well too, which were actually really, really surprisingly good characters that we get to meet here. I mean, we've got to see somebody who apparently has a really strong hold over Sue here, a woman by the name of I think her name is Mal Reese. Whatever she has done to Sue in that relationship.
Which they kind of go into it.
Yeah,
Sue kind of lets it out with exactly what she was doing to him.
Yeah,
it's such a weird kind of sub-dom, like dominatrix kind of relationship.
And that's a whole side of Sue that you just never knew existed. And the fact that he's opening up to the one man that he trusts, as he mentions in the film here, he's telling him, "Don't tell her I told you so, because she'll kill us both." And you can tell French is like, "You really are scared of this woman." He's like, "I'm telling you, you don't know what she's like." And then when you meet her, you can see right then and there, even though she's not in the film very much, but you can definitely tell that her presence. Yeah, it was definitely.
And that's what I really liked about the character. Not to give too much away, she was also has an enforcer named Britt.
One of your favorite characters.
One of my favorite characters. I mean, she is a brawny babe for days. The girl is thick and stacked, and she shows her presence in the film. She shows herself as a viable threat too, even to the point that the Sue and French make note of it about how big she is. Which was pretty funny. And she kind of comes back later in the film as well.
Yeah.
A lot of characters, a lot of side characters actually kind of have some surprising good roles, even if it's just a couple one-liners or even they're like just a background character. Nobody was a throwaway character in this movie, which was good, which I enjoyed. And even the two guys following them,
that's
we're doing pretty well. And then later on in the film, they go kind of touch upon that, how they're recovering from their injuries.
Yeah.
One of the Vigs, the fact that Sue had to actually get involved physically trying to get one of the Vigs to hilarious results. So watch out for that. Everybody in that scene, from the trainer, where they're collecting the Vig from, where they're collecting the money from, did a fantastic job. And that scene really kind of worked their buddy action comedy. A relationship a little bit more too.
Well, they definitely kind of took it to a different direction here with the story. But I mean, like we mentioned before, not to get into spoiler territory here, but there is something that comes back to haunt them from a previous experience that occurred in the first film here. But but when it gets revealed as far as what's going on, it's one of those situations that we mentioned before that we were actually surprised to see that. And once we saw it, how it's laid out, I actually thought it worked well for the story. Now, I don't know if you want to get into some of the mix. Because
this is a perfect segue, because it all literally comes to a head between Sue and French, to the point it becomes almost like an homage or kind of callback to the fight scene They Live.
Yeah.
Once you get to the scene, you'll get it. You get this emotional tension, feel like, oh shit, got a situation, where it kind of builds up to the climax of the end of the film.
Yeah.
So eventually, when they come and help each other out near the climax of the film, that's kind of where I think it kind of falls flat. It just became average. It didn't kind of go anywhere with me. But I think that's kind of one of the few negatives I have with the film.
Well, I think for me, one of the biggest ones was the fact that the villain in this movie didn't really have much of an impact for me like the villain we have in Tony Todd, who played Barbossa in the first film. Mm-hmm. Not to say that the person that played the villain in this movie wasn't any good. He was really good, but really wish that you could feel that menacing threat behind it, because although Barbossa in the first film was not in it very much, the
physicality,
the immaturity of his purpose, of why he's doing what he's doing, and the lengths he'd be willing to go to prove his point, to get what he wants. He was a threat. It's like
he showed he was crazy. It was also his physicality and his performance. How crazy he got, which was believable as a threat. And that's kind of what fell flat through me too. When you find out who the main villain is, they're kind of building it up through the story, kind of giving you these little red herrings here and there. Because at one point you think Mal Reese is the big bad, with that okey doke, I call it, later on in the middle of the film. But then later on, you find out that wasn't the case at all. So it kind of fell flat how they executed. I'm like, well, that could have been different, kind of help build up the character a little bit more before the big reveal of why this came back to bite everybody in the ass, including Tommy. Tommy has a smaller role in this film, or just as long, but it was supposed to be more impactful, I feel, because of his relationship with the boys throughout the film. But even I felt that was kind of flat because Tommy's presence in the first film was more felt. Yeah. And he looked more like you don't cross Tommy, you don't fuck with Tommy. And somehow Tommy gets to be, used as a scapegoat, as a means to catch the guys in the situation. So that kind of fell flat for me. That's probably the only few negatives I have to say about the film.
Yeah, well, here's the thing for me. I love this movie. I absolutely adore this movie.
You love every film, bro.
Well, that's not entirely true.
We don't talk about Art of Spell.
Yeah. Or Last Airbender. But seriously though, I absolutely love this movie because we mentioned before in the previous review, especially towards the end, where we talked about how Scott Adkins made a comment about how he misses those old school action films from the 80s and the 90s, that just over the topness and the just the surrealism that just they can do whatever they want. These guys are superheroes, and it will in a lot of ways that's missing in a lot of action films so far, with the exception of maybe John Wick, who is
that was definitely a throwback to
throwback to the old school days, but with a nice little twist to it to make it much more contemporary for this day and age actually here. But my point is that this film harkens back to that old school buddy action comedy, and I think they do it well. And it's definitely not on the big scale like 48 Hours or Lethal Weapon and things of that nature, but it definitely holds true to the essence of that type of film.
Can't be over the top, didn't take itself too seriously.
Right.
Which works for it.
Yes.
But like I said, it just kind of fell flat. I think one of the side characters to me was more of a threat than the main character because she showed more like cunning and tenacity. I think her name was Felix. In one of the scenes, she shows her reason why she's a threat a couple times in the last climax. And I feel like that's one thing to say. I wish she had a little bit more screen time. But the way they had to set up the movie, there was enough to give her some screen time. Yeah. I think she deserves some more screen time. I think those guards and those guys following the boys along the story deserved a little bit more screen time or a little more build up.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, I think. Because they kind of their role ended quickly in the movie, so to speak.
But either way, though, it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the movie.
No, not at all.
And it definitely did. I think it did its job just enough to really care for the two main guys in this franchise here.
It did what it did. You know what? Right. It brought a sequel and it brought these characters back.
Yeah.
And it did its job to the point like this probably ain't gonna make sense, but we need a reason to bring these guys back. And I think that's why the story went the way it did.
Yeah.
To kind of bring up the sins of the past of that movie and kind of not only tie in the first movie, but kind of bring that movie to kind of a full circle, sort of.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing. Yeah, go on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were
I mean that's kind of why I see why they went the route they did, but at the same time, I feel like it could have been executed a little bit better, especially with that climax scene. I was kind of hoping for something a little bit more crazy,
a little more epic.
Yeah, because the first one, the showdown, the tension was just the entire time.
Yeah.
This is kind of felt like just your normal action shooter throwdown. There was no real stakes.
It didn't have that same impact for me like the first film did, where you have Sue is dead, like holy shit, the one of the best parts of the film has died, and then you have French who looks to be dying too. But the thing is that I mentioned before that, and you talked about it too, where the characters have these nice little moments where they're conversing with one another. They're having a little nice one-on-one moment. They're sharing their personal feelings and thoughts of each other and how much they appreciate being around.
It's all Tommy situation too,
right? And then at the same time, the differences that they've had in the first film, they are coming to head with one another here in one particular scene that you talked about, where they're fighting each other in that back street there, and they really have to confront each other with that and learn to overcome those differences. They do, and then with all that excess baggage off their shoulders now, they are in good terms with one another here. And then the events that lead into towards the end of the film here, you're left to wonder, oh, there's going to be part 3. And if there is a part 3, then you've already removed all that excess stuff that needed to be taken care of, and you can take it to a whole new direction here. And that's really where I'm most excited about with this movie, because the sins of the past have been removed here, and they can do, and they're going to a whole different area across the country. So who knows what other adventures they may come across along the way, because they've already got another job lined up. And I mean, it's ridiculous, but it made sense for the type of film that it is. Because if this was like John Wick taking this approach, it would have killed that franchise.
No, it wouldn't work. I think it works clearly for this character and for this world that they build up for these guys. Because, it looks like there might be another job, and next thing he wants to get that job might go south. Right. And it has me excited for a potential sequel. Because not only these guys, and let these guys have, something's going to go shit sideways. Yeah. So, being said, what do you say? What do you think?
Oh, man, I certainly, me. My man, Scott Adkins, man, I will support you. I love your movies, and I absolutely love this franchise. And this is something that I think is one of his best in his filmography. He's got a few franchises under his belt here: Ninja, Debt Collector, the Boyka series. I give this a super high cheer, so I definitely would recommend it. And it's currently streaming on Netflix right now, both 1 and 2. I highly recommend you guys go out of your way to check it out. It's free.
Let us know. I mean, it's a good action flick. It's an enjoyable action flick. Just don't going in thinking that you're gonna get like a good, character piece. But hey, it's good.
Well,
it's good fun.
No, let's not. Don't say that, because we do have some wonderful character moments here. So,
not taking away from that, but it's not like a thought piece, so to speak. I mean, it's an action flick.
I agree, but I beg to differ, because there are moments where you get to see some really good character moments with these actors here portraying these characters, and they have these conversations where they set the tone for that, and you have those wonderful moments in both films that you get to see. You're showcasing those acting skills, if you will.
Yeah, you're right.
To connect to the characters, because
two big
think
scenes
about
in particular, and especially in this time.
Think about it. What they went through in the first one, they go through in this film. None of the stuff should have worked, but I still cared about these characters.
Yeah. All right. You're right. And I did too. I want to see them again. How about you guys? Did you guys watch the film? Did you like the first one? Did you like the second one? Do you think the second one's better? Are you expecting a sequel? Do you want a sequel? Where would you like to see these guys go next? And do you want to be a debt collector? Let us in the comments below. Keep us posted. If you like the film, let us know what you think in the comments. And Rob, where else can they follow us?
Well, you can follow us here on our social media accounts. We have a Facebook and Instagram page at New Release Wednesdays, and on Twitter, it's at DNRW. And you can follow myself on my social media accounts. On Instagram, it's just Rob_Medina0585. And on Twitter, it's RobMedina0585. And on Facebook, simply just Rob the Movie Guy. And my buddy from another nutty over there, where can they follow you, sir?
You can follow me on my Instagram and on my Twitter on David is Disaster. You can also follow me on my Facebook page, David A.S. Tecado. We'll talk about everything about indie wrestling, comic books, video games, and other weird pop culture stuff. And you can also see me get into it with Rob every now and then. As well as that, if you like what we do here, please check out the rest of the videos that the NRW crew has here going on. We've got everything from music, movies that we do here, obviously, video games, comic books, and more. We're doing everything to pop culture. And always make sure you check our social media, because we are always dropping news on Facebook, Twitter, and beyond regarding any other projects that we're doing as well. And if you like what we're doing, please let us know. I see that we're pumping up those numbers up. We're trying to get those numbers up to 1,000. Yep. So thank you to all those fans that are liking and subscribing. Don't forget to keep pushing everything that is NRW. And just thank you. That's all I can say.
Yeah, we thank you very much for that as well too. And make sure you share our videos as well. And hit that notification button there too, and hit the like button as well, so that way we can see that you guys are wanting to see more of what we can do. And any recommendations you guys have out there for us to check out,
hit the comments.
Let us know.
Let us know. Do
you
hate us?
You hate us? Yes.
Should Rob stop wearing a hat?
Face, man?
Let us know.
I'll start wearing a hat when you No, I will never stop wearing a hat. What am I thinking here? No, of course not. Never. No one wants to see that bald head of mine here. No, how dare you? Anyways, we appreciate you all here watching our videos here, and we thank you very much for the comments that we have been receiving here, the likes we've been receiving here as well too. We really do appreciate that. So until next time, everybody, we hope you guys are staying safe out there, and remember, be nice to each other, be excellent to one another, and cheers.
Cheers.
We'll be right back.